Path of Exile 2's biggest competitor, Diablo 4, just announced when its expansion will be releasing. This first expansion, the Vessel of Hatred, will launch on October 8th, 2024. Now, we just learned that Path of Exile 2 and Grinding Gear Games are aiming to launch Path of Exile 2's early access in November of 2024. This means they'll almost go head to head. And while we know that Diablo 4 has a huge audience, right, and Path of Exile 2 is a direct competitor to said audience, we don't really know what new Diablo 4's first expansion will bring. It's a new region, a new chapter to the story, a new class, but what content is it going to bring? Is it going to address a lot of the worries that existing D4 players are having? In addition to itemization, which they did a great job of addressing in Season 4, or so many people say. I'm very curious to see that, because today, all we saw was a cinematic introducing the Vessel of Hatred. And while it was a metal as all, well, I'm not going to swear on this channel. I don't swear. I try to keep it child friendly. It was a metal cinematic. It was wild, and it didn't show any gameplay. And that's something that I really appreciate about Path of Exile 2 and Grinding Gear Games. Blizzard makes some of the best cinematics in the industry, but they lack when it comes to gameplay, to that feel, in my personal opinion. And that's what I really wanted to see. What new gameplay systems is coming? What new content pieces are arriving in this expansion? And since we didn't really see any of that, and we only know a few confirmations about the new class, new region, so on and so forth, we can't really discuss that here today. However, what we can discuss is how Path of Exile 2 can tap into that massive market share that Blizzard and Diablo 4 currently have, because there's no battling that fact. The audience for Diablo 4 is much larger and much more active than that of Path of Exile 1 and currently Path of Exile 2. But there are a few things, I have a list of exactly 4, that Grinding Gear Games is doing to help capture those people, to help bring them to PoE, and perhaps slowly but surely build up that market share that Grinding Gear Games and PoE 2 will have in the future. And that's what we're going to talk in this video about today. And I have some new PoE 2 gameplay to showcase to all of you. That is showcasing some new bosses, some new areas in Couch Co-op. I hope you all enjoy. And if you like this type of PoE 2 or general ARPG content, make sure you like the video and you subscribe to the channel, hitting that sub notification bell to receive more of it in the future. Without further ado, let's get into exactly how Grinding Gear Games is making PoE 2 a direct, excellent competitor to Diablo 4, the Vessel of Hatred. Number 1 on my list will surprise absolutely no one. It's accessibility. Path of Exile 2, especially after my latest foray into it this past week, is more accessible than PoE 1, and I'd argue it's far more accessible than a lot of other titles in the genre, just given how much it shows you, how much it tutorializes right now, and all these new game systems that are coming with PoE 2. The biggest of which is going to be Couch Co-op. Now, you might be thinking I'm joking here, but I'm not in the slightest. The way they have designed this, Path of Exile 2 and PoE 1 historically, very complicated games. But now, really, I can sit next to someone that I enjoy playing with or want to showcase the game, and I can directly explain how all these systems work. The UI has been designed to allow this to happen. The gameplay is incredibly smooth. Lots of things are responsive. They have dictionaries in the game now. They have help systems. All the skill gems are clearly defined. You can see videos and pictures of them in the game itself. Everything is now located in the game. And when you are sitting next to another individual, playing the game with them, you are able to show them all of this very clearly, very cleanly. And that is a huge step above what PoE 1 has done and what a lot of their direct competition has done. It's like Grinding Gear Games sat down and they thought, okay, what are the biggest barriers to entry for new players? Let's address them directly so we can help bring as many people as possible into PoE 2. And that's been phenomenal. And while tutorialization has been a big part of making the game more accessible, I have to mention the crossplay and the cross progression here, because those are also massive. Crossplay is just going to bring a huge new audience to the game in the form of PS5 players and Xbox players, and it did play very well on PS5. I can't say the same for Xbox yet. I have not tried it, but I bet it will be pretty close to the same. And controller play is just phenomenal. You know, they gave me this new controller right here, which I will showcase to you. I don't know how expensive it is. Some people have told me it's a very expensive controller, but it has the Path of Exile 2 branding and everything on it. It has all these buttons on the back, on the front. Very nice of them to provide this to me. I really appreciate it. I might be playing PoE 2 with a controller, and they have confirmed that they're playing on PC, by the way. I might get a console to do both, but primarily PC. I'm a PC gamer first and foremost. I will be playing with a controller because they've also said they'd like to make the game responsive. So you can play on a controller, swap to your mouse and keyboard to do things like inventory management, trade, whatever, and it should be seamless. So I will probably be playing both. It felt so good, and bringing this to other systems, not as a port, but as an actual game, a good game experience from day one, is going to do loads for accessibility. And it's going to spread this to far, far more people than they could have beforehand. And I'm really, really happy about that fact. And that's the first way that they are actually going to compete with the titans that are Blizzard. Now, number two is it's the visceral combat, everyone. The moment-to-moment gameplay of Path of Exile 2 is unmatched for me right now. I've played a lot of games in the past month. I've played Elden Ring, I've played Hades, I've played Diablo 4, I've played Path of Exile, of course, DT Resurrected, Grim Dawn, I have a bunch of Helldivers too. And you know what? The visceral combat of Path of Exile 2 feels the best, and it reminds me of Helldivers 2 and how cinematic that combat is. When I was playing on the couch with my partner, I won't say my wife because a lot of people seem to have a problem with saying I played with my wife, whatever. When I was playing with my partner, it felt cinematic, each and every battle. You know, there's a boss called Wrathbreaker, this hyena king. And when you walk up to him, all these hyenas are in a huge circle watching him atop this plateau. And you go up the plateau, you fight him, and every 25%, he spawns a ton of packs of hyenas. And when they come in to attack, oh my gosh, it feels cinematic. Like you're holding out on this plateau as they swarm you. You're dodging the boss abilities. You're trying to handle and CC all these hyenas that are attacking you. And you can't get too close to the edge of the mountainside because there are half hyena, half people things chucking spears down at you. So you're playing in essentially a cinematic masterpiece here. And that's not the only area where you see that. The Act 1 boss, when you walk into the fight, it's purely cinematic. He references that, oh, I'll finish you this time myself, because he tries to hang you in the very opening character select scene. He leaps down, the environment changes, there's someone watching you, there's the seed of corruption in the background in the cage. Oh, it's all just phenomenal. And this combat, it's so fluid, it's so fun. And it reminds me of Helldivers 2 and how cinematic that experience is. I think that's actually a great comparison of what they're going here. Helldivers 2 has visceral cinematic combat, and I feel like the moment-to-moment gameplay of Path of Exile 2 is very much the same. And that's going to be very good to hear for a lot of new players coming into the game. You can simply pitch it to new people as such. You know, PoE 2, way better combat than PoE 1. I get that it is either super zoomy, and you don't use many different abilities. It's very spammy, right? But with this, oh my gosh, it's just cinematic every moment. You're using one ability for one thing, another ability for a second. You're comboing together with your friend, whether you're on the couch, whether you're just playing multiplayer, and it feels phenomenal. Very much like Helldivers 2. And number 3 plays into this facet, okay, just a little bit. It's more cinematic gameplay and an immersive story. Now, this is where the Diablo series has always smashed Path of Exile, in my opinion. PoE 1's story is great and all, but it's presented not in a great way. You have to go and seek out information. There's some environmental storytelling, especially in the later aspects of the game, but otherwise, a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the story, the hidden secrets, you just have to read a wall of text to actually get, and that doesn't work for a lot of people. In PoE 2, though, it's far more dynamic. It's far more involved, because as your character is walking through areas, not only just on entering an area like in PoE 1, but as you walk through an area, your character responds to the environment that's changing around them. They respond to the monsters they fight, to the bosses they encounter, to the people that they kill, to the objects you break, to the objects you see. You know, in Path of Exile 1, there's the ritual mechanic. In PoE 2, there is a ritual in the hunting grounds, and when your character, if they're a ranger, happens upon it, the ranger says, "Oh, this seems oddly familiar." or strangely familiar. That's awesome. It's a callback to the first game, and it's your character dynamically telling a story as you progress through the game itself. And that's far better than what we currently see in PoE1, wherein the character only tells a story when they enter a zone for the first time, and then you have to go and seek out all the extra story tidbits. That's not the same here. The same can also be said for all the different characters and monsters. They talk much more. They explain what's going on. They respond to what you do. The Executioner fight is a beautiful cinematic masterpiece, and I cannot wait to show you the actual sound-based gameplay portion of it. Actually, let's just play that right now, right here. Should be good to go.
Stop. Just wait. Surely we can.
You shouldn't have come back here.
Great Wolf, take you, bastard!
See, I told you that was absolutely bloody brilliant. My wife did, oh dang it, I did it again. My partner didn't notice that the Executioner was executing someone the first few times we tried the fight, and that there was a pile of heads below him. And when I pointed it out to her, she asked for a filter for violence in the game. Pretty crazy. Anyways, it's a fact that people play games for stories and cinematic experiences. And I think with the way Path of Exile 2 is presenting all of its story and all of its dialogue and how you're progressing through the maps and these various areas is a step above not only Path of Exile 1, but Diablo 4. A lot of Diablo 4 is told through cinematics, where you're not doing anything. You can't move. Your character can't do anything. You're just in the cinematic. You're listening to the dialogue. That's not Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 2 is telling a story as you move throughout it. Sure, there's dialogue in town with people where you can't move, but otherwise, that storytelling is done on the go. And that is going to bring in a lot of players who appreciate that they continue playing the game while listening to a darn good story, okay? And that's going to match it up against the Vessel of Hatred, which is coming out in October, just about a month before the 2024 early access for PoE2. Number 4 is just something that I notice about grinding your games versus Blizzard, and that's more consistency. Now, a lot of you may laugh if you know about what's going on in Necropolis League right now, wherein people are not enjoying the league mechanic, and it has the worst retention of any league in the history of PoE. But besides that, grinding your games is super consistent with their content updates, and they have been for many years now. Blizzard, on the other hand, is very hit and miss, it seems, okay? They will release something and it's just utterly broken. No one enjoys it and it takes them a long time to fix it. I'm talking like 4 seasons, like what happened with Loot Reborn, okay? That's not the way of grinding your games. Grinding your games is very consistent and on the mark. When they say they're going to do something, it's very likely that that is going to happen, and they're going to communicate how swiftly it is going to happen. And that's something that a lot of people are beginning to appreciate more and more in the gaming industry these days. As I've become more attuned to the way things work with gaming, as I've built up this YouTube channel over the past year, I've been learning that myself more and more, and it's made me appreciate grinding your games as a company more so than ever before. So I think once a lot of people are exposed to PoE2, once it hits the prime hype cycle, the month before when the Vessel of Hatred releases, people will see that, they'll realize that, and they will come to PoE2 in droves. And I am super excited for that. I think it's going to match up against D4, the Vessel of Hatred, quite well. But what did you think about all this? I'm pretty confident PoE2 is going to smash D4, the Vessel of Hatred, but we're just 6 months away. Anyways, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you want more content from this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the sub notification bell. And if you want more right now, make sure you watch these videos all about my experience playing Path of Exile 2 on consoles this past week. People have really been enjoying them as I enjoyed PoE2 on the couch. Talakura.